My name is Seth King. I'm from BYU-Idaho. I lived all over the Treasure Valley, but called Boise as my home. I've been over here at school for the last year, studying cybersecurity, data science, and the cloud. And that's where I kind of got my project idea. My eventual goal is to be a cloud security architect or cloud architecture, cloud security analyst, somewhere in the cloud space. I think would be really, really great. The cloud essentially is where you can hop onto your computer and say, I want to use more resources than I have available right now. So let's say your computer and you're like, I want to run a program, or I want to have a database, or I want to compute something. I want to run a giant AI agent. Well, your little computer there doesn't have the resources for that. So AWS or Azure or Google Cloud or Alibaba Cloud or any number of cloud providers have gone and have built these data centers. And this has a ton of hardware in there with computing functions, storage, and you can rent that those functions from the cloud provider, basically as much as you use. So you only pay for what you use in general. My project is something called Archon. There are two different pieces to it. One is Archon Professional and the other one is Archon Academy. Basically, as I've been going to school and I've been learning about the cloud, a lot of the classes here are work groups. You get in, you kind of learn a little bit about a subject, and then you just try to build that whatever it is in your lab that you're trying to create. But what I've found is that a lot of times the deeper understanding is not there, and the relationships between the components, why those relationships are important, the security of what you're building, it's hard to plug that all into a class just all at once, especially when we don't have enough time, I guess, in the classes. And so what Archon is it's a visual cloud design architecture where you can build your architecture inside Archon on the canvas. You can design it exactly like you would in AWS. It has all the different attachments and features. Then when you want to render it in AWS, you can generate a Terraform script. It will build that script from the architecture that you've designed, and then it will then you can run it in Cloud Shell and it will build it as you designed it. The other pieces to it is it can help with compliance. I've built 500 rules into it to automate compliance, and so by doing that I can encourage security from the beginning as opposed to building it and then trying to build in all your security facets at the end. The other part of it is financials. We always got to think about the money. When you're building something in the cloud, if you're not careful, it can run your costs up a lot more than you are expecting, just because if you don't have a clear expectation of what something is going to cost, and you build it, it can run out on you pretty quick. So I built a little financial operations center in there where you design whatever it is you're designing, you put in your usage data, and then it will pull the live pricing from AWS so you can see exactly how much this is going to cost you over the next week, month, year, 2 years, however long you want. And you can even include things like, I think we're going to grow at 4% a month or whatever, and it can calculate out your costs from there. The other piece of this is Archon Academy, which is a cloud-focused learning portal. Basically, it's really hard to find great resources to learn the AWS certifications. and then you have to pay for any practice tests. And usually those between the materials you have to pay for learning and certification costs and paying for these practice tests, it can run a pretty penny. And so I went through and I built a little learning portal for anyone who wants to get into cloud. They can access this this system. It has a bunch of learning modules directly from, not directly from AWS, but using their material to make sure we are in line with the best practices. There's a component library on there, so if someone's like, what does Lambda even do, right? You can look it up and it will pull up the component, tell you what it is, how it's used, common mistakes, how to avoid those mistakes. And then when you start getting ready, when you're like, man, I want to take my AWS Solutions Architect Associate, I have a ton of practice tests that are built in there and verified. So you can go in, do your practice tests, and feel confident in your ability to walk into the testing center, wherever that is, and get your certification. Once you get cloned Archon into your system, to start, you just go install. Sorry, here you gotta say Python and then install.py. It will run this. This is your setup right here. I was running it, and so it is already running, but let's just update and restart. Right here, you'll see it starts running through all the stuff. This usually takes a minute or two. Awesome. So it's up and running. Let's look at professional first. Ta-da. You go to here, your account. You can stick in your favorite model for AI. There's a few AI features in here I built in. For your account, you can just use the password Archon, the username Archon. It'll be great. So in here, let's say I do have stuff for Azure, Google Cloud, and on-prem services, but right now we're just talking about AWS. So let's get started. All right, here we're going to create our architecture. Anything here you can drag and drop. You can grab route table. Let's say I want to throw an EC2 instance. Over here on the side, you have the different component configurations on here. All of this translates in Terraform. If you want to add any Terraform attributes specifically, you can throw those in. You can add instructions into it. You have security groups, so you can create IAM roles. This is the validation portion of it that validates against, for example, like your CIS, your SOC 2 compliance, PCI, your NIST, HIPAA, that type of thing. Let's get rid of that, and we'll move over to, if you do have a Terraform plan you do like, you can import it right here. I have some test ones that come with the product, and import this right in. So this is an architecture that was generated. As you can see, man, there are a lot of different things here that that are an issue. Right here, every time it has a warning, it'll also tell you how you can fix it, which I find pretty useful, which is nice. Over here, we'd like to see how much this would cost, because frankly, that's one of the things we're interested in. But actually, we'll do this in a second. The next piece I want to see is this AI chat. Here, we can talk to our AI and say, hey, I want to build something, and then have it actually build what we describe. We'll give it a second. Here we go. So it's going to ask you a few questions, because frankly, my description was very lacking. So we gave it some answers. Give it a second to build it out. Okay, targeted. Let's go ask some more questions. Let's see what we come up with. You could also tell it to just say, go with whatever you think is best. Yes, build it. Okay, so here is what it has now in its system for what it's building out. External, gateway, we have the West, Cognito, Shield, all those fun things. I'm saying build it, so it's building it, and then we should be able to just click apply to canvas, and it will all show up here. So, which is kind of nice. Yeah. And then we'll get a cost estimate for it, and then we'll turn it into a Terraform script, and then you could take this Terraform script and load it up into your AWS account console, go to Cloud Shell or Cloud9 and run it, and it will build exactly what you made here. Apply to canvas. Dun dun dun. Yeah. Okay, cool. Here is our canvas right here. This long stream of stuff is all of the different, here, I'll show you, CloudWatch configuration. You can tell which data type is being invoked here. The greens are event, purples are data flows, blues are your network, and then your grays are just showing how it depends on what. So over here we have our engineering workstations, we have our shared storage, our databases, we have our internet gateway, our VPN clients, all of this. And to make it easier, you can always start moving stuff around. Eventually I'll have it populated in a little bit nicer version of it, but for now this is great. And then down here you can see all of the different configurations, like with CloudWatch logs and different things, routing tables, where we don't necessarily have a component factor of it, but it is important to make note of, so that when you generate your script, it has everything in it. Now in here we can see, man, we have some critical warnings here. Well, one critical warning: the Cognito user pool does not require multi-factor authentication. Well, that's something we're going to have to fix when we generate it, right? That type of thing. So we also want to figure out, okay, we just built this. How much is this going to cost our company? So this uses live data, and then it has a 1 hour cache. So what that means is that for the next hour in the US East 1 region, it will pull stuff up almost immediately. Yeah, cool. So over a year, let's change this down. I don't know how much you're planning on growing. Let's say you have 0% growth rate. Cool. Weekly cost for the system would be about $131, $573 monthly, and $6,800 over the year. But your cost might be different just depending on your use. And so all of this is usage. You can adjust this and then recalculate, and it will give you a more appropriate usage. Let's say you did build this and you're like, man, I think our usage is a little bit different. Well, you can download a Cost Explorer CSV, pull that in, and then upload it, and that will give you an analysis on here and tell you, hey, you're actually using this a lot more than you thought you would, right? Which is always useful to know. And then at the end, if we're like, man, I think this is what we want, you could generate. And then this would generate a Terraform script you could use. If you're wanting to change anything on here, every single component on here has all of the same configurations that you would be able to make on AWS. This is Archon Academy. There is a section that I am working on where you could have an instructor and then a class, and then enroll in those classes, get assignments handed over, that type of thing. But in here we have a ton of different pieces like I was talking about earlier. You've got a course library, you've got the different modules here, Everything in here has a ton of data about it, teaching you all about. In this case is AWS regions. Then we also have questions at the end to check competency and reading. If you want to ask your AI friend a question, you can do that. Decide if you want to get hints or have them tell you the answer. But the real value I find in this comes in two places. One is in components, where you can say like, man, I don't know what a transit gateway is, and it will tell you all about it. And it links to the documentation if you want to read directly from AWS's own website. So there's that, and then also there's the practice tests right here. It's loading my catalog. Cool. We have the these are just a couple in here. I'll be adding more tests as time goes on. But for right now, my main ones that I have are the AWS Certified Cloud Practitioner, the Solutions Architect, and the Certified Security Specialty. And so this will help anyone who's looking to take any of these tests. I've scaled up the tests appropriately to give everyone the same amount of time you would have in a normal test. But you could submit the test, you're like, man, I got nothing right? Because I just submitted it. And it will tell me where am I lacking, right? So here, because I didn't say anything. It was pretty bad right here, right? But you can look and see my performances by domain. Your passing threshold is 70% in the Cloud Practitioner exam, roughly. So as long as you get more than that, you should be good. There's a couple of other tools that I'm building, right? Your sandboxes, you have your assignments in here where it says, hey, let's build, an IAM scoped events processing. So it'll give you your assignment, and then you have to build it on here, and then you can submit the assignment. And I didn't have anything on here, so the only thing I got was I didn't have an EC2 instance on here. But it scores against everything here. It scores against your relationships you build. It scores against what processes you have, and it has the same pieces that the Pro version has. So. Just a good way for people to learn, to grow as individuals and as they try to learn how to work in the cloud. I think the most important piece of this is not like, oh, cool, I built something that's, to me it's useful and I hope is useful to other people, but I think it shows people that you can just go out and build things that you find are interesting and fun. You can go out and say, hey, I see this problem out here. I can actually go and make a difference, and I can make a product, or I can make a tool that will solve those issues. Especially in this day of AI, you can go out and become an expert in whatever you want to be an expert in. Personally, I wanted to build a visual cloud interface, right? And so I went and I said, I think I can do that. Now, do I know how to do all the stuff that right? Do I know how to program everything in here when I started? No, I didn't. But I was able to take the knowledge that I didn't know, use AI as a tutor, and then be able to build everything else that I have in here. Don't be afraid to go out and try to solve your own problems, right? Go out and solve the problems that you find.